Hey, what's up, fish friends? Today we're looking at this Fluval Flex. I've had it for 8 years, so I know it like the back of my hand. I'm going to give it a real honest review today, tell you what it comes with, some pros and cons, and then lastly, some aftermarket upgrades that you can give it to help fix some of the cons that I've listed in this video. Okay, so what we got here is a really nifty all-in-one aquarium. It comes with everything that you need to get started. And that's really cool, especially if you're a beginner and you're not really sure of like what type of filter to buy, what kind of lights to buy, all that stuff. It makes it simple for you. Granted, this is not the lights that they come with. Look at this B-roll footage here. This is the standard light that the tank comes with. It's a really nice light. It's controllable with a remote control. You can set it to be some weird colors if you want, like some rave colors and stuff, but it's best to just leave it on like the natural full spectrum, and it does really good job at growing plants. I did decide to try using these lights instead of the stock lights because I wanted a little more intensity for some of these red plants. But taking a look back at some of the tanks I've set up in the past, the stock lights do a really terrific job at growing plants. And one of the pros I'd say to the lights that come with the tank versus these is these are almost a little too intense for this tank. I'm always fighting off algae, so may go back to the stock lights next time around. Some other stuff that this tank comes with, being a all glass aquarium, you need to have basically this leveling mat underneath, and it comes to fit the tank. Basically, that prevents any cracks or pressure points from forming at the bottom of the glass. Even the smallest pebble that's stuck under here, once the full weight of this tank is pushing down on it, could cause a crack in the glass. And obviously, it comes with a tank, and then the filter is built into the back of the tank. Basically, you have the tank right here, and water flows into the filter through this little chamber back here. There's another one down here, back here, but I got it covered in soil, so there is some water that's flowing down there. And what happens is it runs through there. I have some ceramic rings in there, and then there's some sponges in there. You can just pull them out when it comes time to cleaning, bring them out, and get rid of all that debris in there. And then this last chamber is where I have the heater, and then the pump, the return pump, that pumps water back into the tank through this nozzle. This is something else that the tank comes with. And it's completely adjustable, which is pretty cool. There's two spouts that come out of it. And it is a strong little pump, considering the size of the tank. Some other Fluval Flexes are the Flex 9 and the Flex 32 gallon. Like I said before, this is 15, so kind of the medium-sized Fluval Flex. They come in black and white, and then I believe there's also a saltwater version of this tank, which is pretty comparable. I think one of the differences, there's a little like protein skimmer that fits in the back of one of these chambers, and then also the lights are going to be a different spectrum to like a higher Kelvin with a little bit more of that blue to help the corals grow. Whereas the lights that come with the planted version are 6500 Kelvin, which is just what you need to grow plants. Personally, the 15 gallon is my favorite. I do have two 9s. One of them is a little chili raspborer tank, and then the other is a hospital, quarantine, or just temporary housing tank for various fish that come and go. And then I have the 32 gallon as well. Truthfully, I'd have to say that the 15 is my favorite. I think that the squarish design of this tank is just super sexy looking. And it's just like such a modern design. I love the way it looks. Before we get to the cons, let's be positive and talk about the pros of this tank. So the first big pro that I'd have is just the design of this tank. And when you look at it, it's such a sleek design. There's a lot of bow fronts that curve this direction with the tank, but this tank, the Flex, curves this way. I assume that's what the Flex is, that it flexes out. It's just a really, really slick, modern looking design. You know, whether or not you keep the lid on it or you take the lid off, it looks really slick. When you take the lid off, it is like a rimless tank, which is pretty sweet design. The second biggest pro I would give for this tank is the price. It's such an affordable tank. For years, it's been $150, which is a really good deal when you look at all the equipment that goes into it. You know, like if you were gonna buy a 10 or 15 gallon tank, you know, you'd be spending like $30 on the tank. To get decent plant lights, you'd probably be looking at $40, and then a filter, not to mention the fact that the filter is built into the back of this means you don't have to look at it, it's not all clunky, whereas most of the cheap filters take up a lot of space inside tanks and they're kind of an eyesore. So yeah, in recent years this tank has gone up a little bit, and it's anywhere from like $150 to $200. The intake up along the top is kind of unique to the Fluval Flex. A lot of these cheaper kind of all-in-one tanks come with like a little internal filter maybe that you stick in the corner or a hang-on back. But this intake here skims from the surface of the water, which is really neat because oftentimes you'll get like a buildup of like lipids, amino acids, and proteins and stuff, that oily shimmer that you get on the surface of a lot of tanks. That doesn't happen here because that stuff gets sucked into the back of the filter. Getting rid of that lipidy surface is really important for allowing gas exchange. If you have like kind of a oily surface, you can think of it as actually being like an impermeable membrane that doesn't allow gas into the tank and allow gas out of the tank. So having that surface skimming function really helps to keep things cleaner. I also really love the fact that the light that comes with this tank is good for growing plants. So many of the all-in-one aquariums that you buy, like at big box stores, like the Top Fin ones or Aquarium ones, they're gonna give you real garbage lights, like lights that won't even grow the easiest plants. And then one last thing for pros is just how durable this tank is. It's a really solid build. Like I said, I've had this tank for 8 years now. It's taken a little bit of damage. I've moved it to like 3 different houses, I think. I've definitely banged it up a little bit. I've had to patch parts of it that I've nicked up, and this tank just keeps on going. All right, now let's talk about some of the cons of this tank. The one biggest con I'd say is the slats in the filter are really large holes. So naturally, this is a small tank. People are going to be stocking it with small items like, you know, ember tetra that I have in here, chili rat spores are a good one. Shrimp are super common in these tanks, but they will get sucked into the filter in the back, which is kind of annoying. So there could be a better grill on that tank, in my opinion. And then I think that to be a true all-in-one fish tank, it should come with a heater. That really should be the case, right? Like, I don't know, maybe how many of you are using heaters out there? I'd be curious to know who's not using a heater, but where I live, it does get pretty cool in the winter, and we keep our house kind of cool. So definitely need to have that heater in there. If you do use the lid that comes with the tank, it's very difficult to prop up. I've knocked the lid over 100 times, which is one of the reasons that I decided to just like, screw it, you know. I'm gonna go without the lid on the tank. It's easy to stick my hand in there, do work, and not have to open it, put it down. But even beyond the opening, putting down is not a big deal. It's just there's no way to wedge it open. It always falls down, slams on the wall, scratches it up, scratches the lid up, and just a little bit frustrating. And then the one last thing, which is kind of a nitpicky detail, is that this is marketed as a 15-gallon tank. And while technically it is, and when you look back here, you know, that's like, I don't know, 25% of the tank is taken up by the filtration area. So when you're looking at stocking a tank and you're thinking about a 15-gallon, like what fish can you put in a 15-gallon? Well, we're actually talking about maybe a 12-gallon or something like that, which is not a huge difference, but it's worth noting. And I'm kind of anal about little details like that when people are marketing things. I like to know the whole story. Okay, so that's it with the cons. Really not that long of a list, and they're all pretty small things, and considering it's such an affordable tank, I'd say don't let those cons dissuade you from buying this tank. Okay, let's talk about some aftermarket upgrades. These are some really cool things you can do. I get all of mine from Fish Guild Corp. It's a super cool company. I was promoting their products on my channel, and the owner of the company, Adam, noticed I was promoting them, so he reached out to me and sent me a bunch of stuff. But I have paid for quite a few of the upgrades before he reached out to me anyways, because they are really terrific upgrades. Let's have a look at some of them. Okay, so first of all, there are these lid props. The lid props are awesome. One of my biggest frustrations was constantly dropping the lid like I talked about. So all you gotta do is wedge it in here and prop the lid open. It's easy to work on the tank with the stock light shining in there so you can see what you're doing. So this intake up here where water flows back to the filter, that's where all the shrimp get sucked in. So you can purchase one of these intake covers. It's got like this nice fine pattern on it, which is just small and helps to prevent things getting sucked in. For things that are small enough to fit through those little cracks, there is a sponge in the back, so nothing is ending up in that filter. Okay, so if you do decide that you want to go open top on your tank, then the back filter areas are a little bit of an eyesore. It's not a huge deal, but the fact that you want to take the lid off means you want to have like a really clean, slick looking area. And you can get these little filter covers. All they do is cover the back area so that you don't have to look at it. And then there's little grooves in the back so that the cords can smoothly exit without causing this to bump up. Okay, and the last upgrade that is super cool is the flow reducer. All you do is pop it in place here in place of the stock nozzle that the tank comes with. It doesn't reduce the turnover volume in your tank. Your pump is still pumping the same volume of water, but what it does is split it. Instead of coming out of 2 holes, it comes out of 5 holes, and it allows for a little bit of trickle. So that reduces the turbulence in the tank. If you keep a betta or these chili rasboras, for example, especially young, small fish, they don't do well with high levels of flow, and this will just help them to adjust and feel safer, not exert a ton of energy, just staying afloat. A really helpful tool for certain species of fish. Okay, let's talk about some of the species that we can keep in the Fluval Flex. Obviously, it depends on the size tank you're keeping. In the 15-gallon, I'd recommend that you go with some small schooling fish. I have some ember tetra in here, and they do really well. I've kept bettas in this tank in the past, shrimp. You can do neon tetras, cardinals, that sort of stuff, but that point, I almost feel like you're verging on too big of a fish. They do like appreciate a lot of back and forth swimming. So finding a fish that likes to slowly meander along, picking around here and there is a really good choice. Guppies, Endler guppies are a really great option for this tank. Some celestial pearl danios, Kubotai raspora, that sort of stuff would be a really great fit in here. Shrimp are also a really great option to keep in here. You can keep a couple of monos and then get a colony of cherry shrimp going. You can also keep caridinas, like Taiwan bee shrimp. It's a really great habitat for small fish and shrimp. Well, that's all I got on the Fluval Flex today. After watching this, hope you feel like it's a good tank for you to purchase. I've been using this tank for 8 years and I absolutely love it. Hopefully I get another 8 out of it. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider hitting that like or subscribe button, supporting my channel. Really appreciate it. I do put a lot of time into it. So sincerely, thanks a lot. Until next time, see ya.